Auburn's making moves in the transfer portal, got their quarterback of the future in Jackson Arnold, and they just added in the playmaker of all playmakers. Georgia Tech's Eric Singleton is headed down to the Plains. What does this mean for Hugh Freeze? What does this mean for Jackson Arnold? And how does Singelton fit in the system? Let's get the move. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. And today we talk about the Yellow Jacket turning into a tiger down at Jordan Hare Stadium. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. We got an exciting transfer portal period ahead, so you want to be dialed on in and locked into the channel. Make sure that you're following us on all the socials. Link is in the description. Follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Download the podcast version wherever you get your podcast listening systems, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. The holiday season is upon us, and what better gift to give someone in your life than a RHOBACK pullover, a RHOBACK fleece, a RHOBACK hoodie, a RHOBACK pair of pants? We all could use a pair of pants these days. Go to RHOBACK.com, use the promo code SECU at sign up, 20% off your first purchase. Dave, this is a big one. This is as big as it gets for a place like Auburn because of Singelton is not this dude that is just getting talked about at schools like Alabama, or he's getting talked about at schools like Missouri. He's getting talked about everywhere. Everybody want a piece of him. And you want to know why? Because of and by the way, I like to say that there are players that are and by the way, which means they fit another model of game prep that you're already doing if you're a defensive coordinator. So you have a good quarterback. You have a solid offensive line that knows how to combat double moves. You have a good ground game. Oh, and by the way, add Eric Singleton into the mix. Oh, and by the way, add his route running into the mix. Oh, and by the way, now you got to prepare for a difference maker in the slot on the outside who could be used on all three phases of the game. He is that electric, and now he gets to join Hugh Freeze's offense for 2025.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to be fired up here for Auburn in a must-have season. Year 3, there's no excuses. This is when the well was getting there. We heard it even going into this last year. Hey, it wasn't going to be in 2024 they were going to go spending a lot of the money in the portal. The On to Victory Collective, Will Redmond, Kenyatta Watson's a little involved, but it's really Will Redmond and Brett Whiteside and the guys over it On to Victory. Give them credit, getting their ducks in a row, having their finances in order to allow them to go get them. I mean, not even just today. Again, I know we're talking about Eric Singleton, but they brought in, I think 2 of the top 5 offensive tackle transfer portal guys as well. Again, Murphy from USC. But we knew this was potentially what they need to do, and I think me and you would both agree. Auburn has a chance. I know they went 5-7 this year to be the most improved team heading into 2025. Again, I think the portal allows that. But for Eric Singleton, probably making anywhere from about 1.1, 1.2 million. Again, I'm not a big overpayer for an undersized receiver, but I get it. If you have it, I mean, what are people great at? People are great at spending other people's money. It's not their money. So 1.1 for him, undersized receiver, not really my thing, but I think he is a phenomenal. 2 things can be true at once. I think you overpay, but also going to think you're going to get a lot of production. You get 1.1 production. I don't know. I don't even think they would care. If they got to 800, 900, I think they'd be fine. But speed and acceleration is this massive trait. And I think balanced body control when you see it too. Just a phenomenal player, explosive player, complements Cam Coleman well, can eats up space. And what I mean by that is all right, he catches the ball in the backfield. It's oh, shoot, he picked up 5-6 yards real quick. I mean, it's like the burst and acceleration that defies schematics there. That's just a playmaker. It's man, that should have been a loss, but he's going to pick up 5 to 6 yards because of his speed there. Explosive playmaker that can take the top off the defense, can use him on the inside, outside, use him in the backfield if Hugh Freeze wants to get creative. So phenomenal pickup across the board.
This is the number 2 player in the transfer portal. This is the number 1 wide receiver. To some people, this was the crown jewel. In fact, I compared him to Helena Troy. There were going to be battles fought over this kid. And they deserved it. Because when you look at his numbers, the last 2 seasons in Brett Key's offense, he was phenomenal. Over 104 catches, 1,400 plus yards, 9 touchdowns, and 18.9 yards per catch radius. The dude does everything. He's big enough to line up on the outside. He's shifty enough to line up in the slot. And the thing that I really appreciate about this is it's a proof of concept adding on in to a system that worked last year. They brought in Keandre Lambert-Smith, and he was less than 100 yards away from becoming the first 1,000-yard playmaker on the plane since Y2K. They have two young up-and-coming guys in Malcolm Simmons and Cam Coleman. They got a third guy in Perry Thompson that I think can absolutely be at their level by the time that he gets done with his sophomore season. They want to be able to justify adding in as many pieces as possible around their quarterback to when they say, we left no stone unturned. And the quiet part, Dave, is that people don't want to admit that Auburn was a flawed team, but they weren't a bad team. Like, it's like whenever you do your math problems back when you were in grade school and you had to show your work and you missed one number and you were off by 0.2. That was Auburn most games. If you avoid the turnovers offensively, I'm not saying this is a 10-win team. I'm not saying this is a 9-win team. What I am saying is this is a bowl-eligible team because their defense did its job. The ground game, when they decided to go to it, was very bountiful, and they were able to capitalize inside of the red zone when they struck, and it didn't lead to turnovers. It led to points. That's Auburn. And so now you're looking at this team. They bring in quarterback play. They bring in two quarterbacks. They also landed Daniels. They came from Stanford. They make sure they bolster up their wide receiver room. They've added in depth on the offensive line. They are guaranteeing that whoever is going to be the starting quarterback or whoever is going to lead this offense next year has everything working for it. And they're also making sure they don't put a lot of pressure on Cam Coleman to be ex-alpha number one going into his second season. They're not putting pressure on Malcolm Simmons to have to double his stat line from 2024. They're not putting pressure on Perry Thompson to have to step up and be that wide receiver number 3 immediately. Singleton comes on in, and he gets to be that difference maker, and he's so creative in how you utilize him. Think of the way that when you look back at Deebo Samuel when he was at South Carolina, that's how I could see the utilization of a player like Singleton. If you want to use jet sweeps, if you want to use motions out of the backfield, if you want to turn a couple of curl routes into 20-yard gains, you can do that now. And I think that when you look at a guy like Hugh Freeze, we talk about his offensive playbook so often. I think that this is where we get to see that creative side kind of come on out. You add in an Eric Singleton. He's going to make moves. He's going to put teams in a blender. He's going to break some ankles. He's going to take some kneecaps along the way. It's a really interesting fit simply based off of schematics and the way he could probably be utilized.
Yeah, I think something that the stat kind of totally determines, I should say, like, explains his playmaking ability is 41% of Singleton's 54 yards receiving yards this year were after the catch.
Yeah,
that's 311 of the 754. I mean, that's just making plays. Your speed, acceleration. He's stronger than, again, you don't see a lot of under 6 foot receivers play with that strong build he has. He does possess that. I mean, just overall, just a playmaker, excels with the football in his hands, home run threat. Again, I mean, there's no other way to deny it. You mentioned he was number 2 portal player across the board. So this is a big get for anybody, but definitely helps Auburn's receivers room. It definitely helps Jackson Arnold across the board here.
Another thing, they also added in Horatio Fields. So that's another wide receiver that you're just saying, okay, cool. If a guy like Perry Thompson's not taking that next step forward, we got a proven commodity. 2 years of eligibility left. So if he balls out next year, he's going to be ending up probably a top 50 draft pick. If he doesn't, guess what? He can come back for another season. He can ball on out. Maybe this is exactly what Hugh Freeze wants. Let's go ahead and grade this move. Elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus. Dave, I'll let you break this down really quickly. I'm not sure that we're going to give out an elite just yet, but this is probably one of those few players that when we talk about what his impact could be, it fits the criteria.
Yeah, elite. No, I mean, just to give people background on this. So this is a grading scale at Marshall Malco when I was at Georgia created for Kirby Smart. Again, if anybody's been around the Nick Saban tree, the critical factors, most people probably listening don't know what I'm talking about. Bill Belichick created it. Nick Saban brought it in. It's a little too complicated a little bit in today's time with as fast as things move. We needed something to do quick. This was it. So they use this at Georgia. They use this at Oregon, some other schools as well right now. But elite kind of speaks for itself. I'm not giving that grade out much. I mean, that's the Travis Hunter, Trey Smith always comes to mind from an offensive line standpoint. These are just dudes, no-brainers. Your wife could tell you these are great players. All league, again, you're not going to have a lot of these guys either on your team, guys. These are like the Walter Nolans, the really good players that come in day one as well. They're just a notch below those leagues. Most of your roster, if your favorite team is doing a good job, good, winnable plus. If you can hit on anywhere from 5 to 7, if you take 10 guys you take in a class, portal, high school, and you can hit on 50 to 70% of these guys, that is a phenomenal ratio right there, and you're going to have a really good football team. Winnable plus is where majority of good football teams live. You win because of these guys. Are they elite? The first 32 picks in the NFL draft, day one, are they getting their name called on Thursday night? No, they're not those guys. But they're core good football players that have a chance to go make a living playing professional football. Winnable minus. Don't look at the minus thing. Doesn't mean a bad thing. It's just you can win with, not because. Just let that factor in. You can win with, not because. You got to surround them with other good football players. Jag, POI. Again, we're not going to be talking about that because, again, obviously Singleton's not anywhere close, just a guy. But I'm going to go potentially. I'm going to go all league here, and this is one of my few all leagues I've given out here. And I think it's going to be because of the system, and I think other complementary guys as well. I think that stat to me, the 41% of Singleton's 754 receiving yards were yards after the catch. That stands out, man. 41%. That's like Buster Faulkner. Give Buster Faulkner credit on the scheme. But that's just, hey, dude, he's making your scheme look a little better yards-wise because all the yards he's picking up after the catch. That's the definition of a true playmaker. Therefore, that raises it up. Again, I've said it. I don't go pay 1.1, 1.2 for an undersized receiver. It's just not really me. I would go do that for a big X receiver. But I will say, from a grading scale, all league, man. I mean, that's really impressive, the 41%. So I'm going to go all league, man. I'm in a good mood today. I'm gonna give Singleton all league, man. That 41%, that's very impressive. That's you making plays and helping your team win football games.
He's an all-league player. I think that you can make a case that he is the first elite that could be in the right system. However, the one thing I will say is he's not going to be somebody where you take away targets from Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons. They're still going to eat. Whoever they bring in at tight end next year, he's still going to get his due. You got to be able to see stellar quarterback play. I think the biggest question mark is going to be, can we see more growth from guys like Daniels, from Jackson Arnold, who we believe is going to be the day one starter? But this is a difference maker. This is a guy that allows you to get into your element when it comes to play calling. This is a guy that allows you to say, hey, number 2's open. Great. Find him. Let him eat. This is we're going to force feed number 2 if he wants it. If he can go ahead and continue to show that he is a dominant force in the open field, why stop going to the well? Why stop it? Because that's what Eric Singleton did last season. That's what Eric Singleton did the last 2 years. Whenever there was a big-time moment in a game, whether it was against Miami or it was against a Clemson squad or it was against an NC State or North Carolina, you watched this Singleton deliver a performance that was always going to be marketable. And I think that that's something that you want to hold your hat on to. 9 touchdowns in 2 years, over 100 receptions. He is a ball magnet. He is a guy that is going to open up the offense because you have to know where he is on the field at all times. And again, he fits my criteria. Oh, and by the way, player. He is and by the way, when he gets open in the flats, good luck trying to bring him down. Oh, and by the way, when you see him line up in the backfield, he's going out on swing routes. Oh, and by the way, if you do not have a speedster that is able to match his route running skills, you are in trouble. That is the type of guy that you're going to get in Eric Singleton. And I want to bring this up just really quickly before we get out of here, Dave. People are wondering, why is Auburn spending big this year? Auburn is a program that has put itself in a position to always be one of the premier outlets in the SEC. People don't want to believe that because they look at the record and they say, well, what has Auburn really done outside the national championship with Cam Newton in 2010? They're a team that has to recruit alongside Georgia and Alabama. They're a team that has to compete alongside Georgia and Alabama. They're a team that kind of gets lost in the well the way an NC State does out in North Carolina or Wake Forest does because we don't see the championships and the titles. But they are a team that has the resources to spend. And you're watching as the collective is saying, we want to be a player this year. We believe that we have enough of a good foundation offensively and defensively with top recruiting classes. We believe that we have enough resources inside the building with our coaching staff that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and start actually acting like the Auburn we envision ourselves. But with that being said, Dave, whenever you go and make moves like this, expectations are not changing. They're only enhancing. So Auburn is going to be facing a lot of pressure going into 2025 to not only be a solid team, be a team that's like Ole Miss last year, all in, having to be a player. A team like Missouri. Schedule may be challenging at times, but we believe that we have enough of an inertia, enough of a foundation, and enough of a portal class to be able to punch our ticket to the postseason. We believe that we are as good. The expectations have to be this high. But when you add in players like Eric Singleton, when you add in great offensive line depth like Murphy, when you go bring in 2 quarterbacks instead of the price of 1, you are guaranteeing yourself We are done being a program that is the doormat and the most disappointing fan base in college football. We want to be at the forefront of all conversations when it comes to postseason chatter.
Yeah, I mean, this was always going to be the year. They've been saying that since last year from talking to them. So I not shocking. Again, I think going into the year, I'll probably have them one of the more improved teams in the league. And again, that's easy to say. I mean, they're going from 5 to potentially 8 to 9. And again, I think the schedule very manageable again. Now they may have to face Diego Pavia again for a third straight year. That's nothing they want to see. But they replace Cal with Baylor to open up the year. I think they go to Baylor to open up the year. So it's still a manageable schedule. I'm with you, man. I think with the portal additions you brought in, it's year 3, man. It's sitting 6-6, 7-5 now. I think you have to get to 8-9 wins.
Let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think of Eric Singleton joining the Plains in 2025? Like, review, hit subscribe to the channel because we talk college football, transfer portal news, transfer portal grades every single day. Download the podcast version of the show. Follow us on the socials, link in the description. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. War Eagle Nation, you got yourself the #1 playmaker in the country. Peace.